welcome to Buddha and the Coach vlog powered by Soul Performance Academy, and I am your host, Dan Mickle. The Buddha and the Coach is a weekly vlog focused on looking at the teachings of the Buddha in a coaching light. The Buddha and the Coach is proud to be sponsored by ICN Athletics. ICN Athletics makes the extraordinary ordinary through adaptive beach volleyball. Everyone should have the opportunity to enjoy and excel at this sport, and ICN offers the programs and education to make it normal for adapted athletes to play on any court. Please help them make beach volleyball court a place for everybody. For more information or to make a donation to the 501c3 nonprofit, visit icnathletics.com and they'll see you in the sand. And again, thank you to John and Dave and everyone at It's Called Normal Athletics. They are doing a great job out there. Please take the time, visit their site, hop on their social media, help out any way that you can, and let's spread the word a little bit. All right, we are on to lesson number 7 this week on the teachings of the Buddha. And the teachings are: set your heart on doing good, do it over and over again, and you will be filled with joy. This one's kind of interesting when it comes to a coaching aspect. Most of us coach because we enjoy it. Obviously we get into it for different reasons, but it's not like we wake up and hate it. Now, sometimes it can get stressful and, it can be a challenge, but for the most part, we're doing it because we're passionate about it, or we're passionate about helping others or our kids, whatever that reason may be. But I kind of want to flip it and look at it a little bit more. And it's the part about doing it over and over again, and you will be filled with joy. I think one of the things that we lose sight of is we get so focused on all the aspects of coaching, the win-loss part of it, the player development part of it, all of that we forget to take a step back and look at what good are we actually doing. Putting aside the, making a team from good to great, or developing those players into great players, what's the actual good that we're doing every day? How are we helping these players? How are we helping our schools or our programs? How are we helping ourselves? And I think that's what we need to focus on. What is, regardless of the outcome on the court or the field or in the pool or, whatever you may be coaching, regardless of the outcome of the competition, what is being produced? What good are you creating? If we start to focus a little bit more on that, I think the rest of it comes around. Now, I'm not saying that if you're shaping your team into these great citizens of the world that they're automatically going to become, the super team on the field or on the court. But what I'm saying is I think they will have more of a purpose feeling. You will be more purpose driven, and it's going to bring out the best of you. It's going to bring out the best of them. I know there's a lot of people out there that teach and coach and focus on it's not the result, it's the process. But I'm actually want to go a little bit deeper than that, going beyond just the results, beyond just the process. Because we can have the great processes, whether you're looking at distributive or blocked practices, random or controlled practices, the whole debate of how we learn and how we educate. But ultimately, what is the good that we are creating in that environment? What makes your athletes, your staff, even yourself get up every day and say, I want to go into this practice. I want to go into this gym. I want to get better. And we do that by making sure that it's a good experience. Again, there's going to be challenges. It's not going to be perfect every day. How do you spread that good and look at that good every single day? And for me, it comes back to we as coaches don't reflect enough. We go in and we know if we have a good practice, we know if we have a good match or competition, and we'll come out and say, man, that was a bad practice. And it happens. I recently just had one that was not my best practice. I wasn't spreading the good, and it had nothing to do with what we were learning. It was more about I didn't control the environment so that even when learning was tough or challenging, it was still a good environment. Luckily, I'm in the habit of reflecting after every practice. What did we do good? And whether it's a good practice or if it's a practice where the wheels fell off, it doesn't matter to me. I take that time, the 10, the 15 minutes, and I just reflect. And it can be something as simple as a real deep reflection in the car ride home from your gym. Or it could be deeper in the sense of you're going to sit down and write it out and journal or log, the atmosphere, how you felt that practice went. But we need to start focusing on what those goods are through that reflection. This is what we did well. This is what I'm doing good. This is how I'm spreading the good. Because even if you're running perfect practices where the players are coming in on time and you're working hard and they're working, in unison and everything appears okay, is that a good practice? It might be good from the athletic standpoint, but what about as a whole? And that can be a tough concept. It's sometimes hard to separate them when you're looking at the whole practice versus the athletic side. And I'm also not just talking about the mental side. I'm not talking about, game anxiety or, commitment or accountability, that whole side of it. I'm talking about just in general, what is the good that you're producing every single day? So how do we make this actionable? And how do we make any of this really actually make sense? Find the good. Every single day that you have a practice or you're coaching, take the moment to reflect and find out what was the good from today. I will give you a real life example. We recently had our opening weekend and we are down a bunch of key players on our program, and the first day of competition did not go well. So you would think that this wasn't a good day. And from an athletic standpoint, it wasn't. But when I reflect, it was a good day in the sense of we got to really work on how to deal with adversity, how to overcome things that are out of our control. And for me, that's a life skill that my players are going to need for the rest of their life. How can you deal with things that you have no control over, but absolutely directly affect you? The bus is late, or it's a rough ride, or you have players out and someone has to step up. Those are all things that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their life. So while we look at and adjust our game plan and how we're going to make differences, I don't let it get lost in the fact that we had challenges and we rose to those particular challenges. We couldn't overcome some of the athletic challenges in that moment, but we rose to the other challenges. And we're also now more prepared. If this happens again, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to adjust. And that changes every year because your personnel typically changes every year. We don't have the luxury of having the exact same team every single year. So what may have worked for the team last year may not work this year. So when we get back to the hotel, instead of focusing on everything that went wrong, I spent my energy focusing on what went right and how can we improve that. Instead of really worrying about the 40% of things that went bad, I wanted to improve on the 20% things that were good and went right. And to me, that's how I take this teaching of the Buddha. I'm setting my heart on doing the good. Let's focus on the good, what went well, and raise that, versus trying to stamp out the bad. Again, I'm not saying that we ignore the bad and that we have to fix other things that are negative. But I think if we focus on the good and how we make the good, it makes it a lot easier to work on what went wrong and the negative aspects. Again, I think too many times we come out of a bad practice or a bad situation and we list everything that went wrong and how we need to fix it. I'm trying really hard to flip that and look at, okay, what went right and how can I spread that more in my gym? How can I make this the bar and not worry about, what kind of went wrong? to me, that's what this lesson means. To me, that's what set your heart on doing good, do it over and over again, and you will be filled with joy. And what I found, and again, this is a fairly new switch for me personally. It's not like I've always had this philosophy. I'd like to think that I had, but it's really hard to look at the good when it's much smaller sample than looking at what's going wrong when it's more in the front. You have that bad practice, and it's much easier to look at everything that went wrong. And that's what I used to do. We would come out of practice and say, we got to work on this, we got to work on that. They weren't focused here. And I would totally ignore the fact that the team was in there early. The team was really paying attention and giving it an effort. They just didn't understand what we were doing. Or they had a really rough day, it was finals or something major going on, and they still were able to get in there, get there early, get set up, and work hard. So now I look at how can we make that part overshadow the bad part. And again, going back to my personal example of this past weekend where we struggled, our bus was late, so we got late. We didn't have our full warm-up. We're missing players. But what we did have were certain players stepped up big time for us. And while we didn't win the match, it at least had us something to focus on. How can we get those players a bigger role? Let's forget about the bus. Let's forget about the injuries. Let's forget what's going on. Let's look at the positive. Let's look at the good. And how do we make that good more infectious to the rest of the team? And I'll tell you what, it was easier to sleep in the hotel. And it was surely easier walking back into that gym for the second day, knowing that we were focusing on what we did well and how we can make that better versus what we did so bad and how do we mask that, or how do we make that bad better? There's always going to be that element, obviously. I'm not saying when things go wrong, you just ignore it and you're like, oh no, we're not going to deal with that. But again, I want to go back to the point of we need to look at what's the good and spread the good, because that's what's going to help our team grow and help our team be better. This one was pretty deep and crazy. I get it. It's not an easy concept. So again, how am I asking you to make this actionable for your next practice, next match, or even just in life? When you're having a day that has challenges, things that are out of your control, try stop focusing on what went out of control that you couldn't have any control over, and focus on the small things that you did right and how you can grow them. How can you make those little things that went right in the middle of that storm larger to overshadow everything else and make it positive? Because that's what's going to help you keep going. That's what's going to help you avoid the burnout. You'll start to notice that there's a lot more little good things going on during bad times than you think. And that's going to help keep you sane as a coach and keep you going. So again, thank you for checking out Buddha and the Coach, looking at the teachings of Buddha through a coaching light. I hope you found at least some small little nugget of information. I would appreciate it if you would follow, like, share, do whatever we can to grow this community. And most importantly, and I am serious about this, even if it's something negative, which I'm sure there always are, leave a comment. Start a discussion. Let's talk about these concepts. I want to see more interaction. I would love to see more interaction on all of this. So please comment below on the video, share this with your friends, make sure they subscribe, like, so that they get it. You can always reach out to me directly across all social media at Real Dan Mickle. And make sure you check out Soul Performance Academy at soulperformanceacademy.com, at 717 Soul across all social media, and especially make sure you check out our sponsors at It's Called Normal Athletics, icnathletics.com. They are doing great things out there in adaptive beach volleyball and really adaptive athletes as a whole. So check out everything that they're doing. All their social media is on their website. And again, thank you everyone for checking this out. Much love, peace, and remember, don't suck.